everybody. It's Monday, February 22nd, and that means it's time for another episode of Chatting with Agnes and Cecilia. I'm one of your hosts, Cecilia Sepp. I'm the principal and founder of Rogue Tulip's nonprofit consulting and association management services. My co-host, Agnes Amos Coleman, can't be with us today, so on behalf of Agnes, I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our global audience, and thanks to our entire audience for joining us. We're really excited because we're continuing our CyberStory series with one of our favorite guests, Sanjay Deo of 24/7 Security. And today's topic is passwords, your online security tool. Welcome back, Sanjay.
Good morning, Cecilia and Agnes in absentia. Hope everything is well. Hope you guys had a great weekend. My name is Sanjay Deo. I'm the founder president of 24/7 Security. And yes, we're going to talk about passwords. Passwords is such a simple concept, but it can keep us safe if managed sensibly, or it can get us into a lot of trouble if not managed properly. So there we are.
Great. Well, and we have a slideshow today, which is a unusual thing for us here on this web series. So I'm going to hand it over to Sanjay and let him begin the show.
Yes, Cecilia, I guess thanks. I know we've talked about this a couple of times, and I just wanted to basically put a few things out there and for everybody's viewing and listening pleasure, and then we can go from there. So tell me when you can see the presentation. Can you see my screen? Passwords?
Yes, we see your header, your title page, passwords.
Excellent, excellent. You know, every utility, every web browser, every bank application, everything that you use has a password, right? You have to prove to them who you are, and you have to provide something that you have. So who you are is your username, and then you have a password that you set up. Either that company or entity gave you the password, and then you change the password as soon as you logged in for the first time, or you logged in and then created a new password and then kept changing it on an occasional basis. But you know, some of the best practices for passwords, you know, use a complex passwords that are hard to break. You know, think about the length, how long the password is, upper lower case, numbers, and special characters, right? I think this is something you have to think about, and we're going to talk about why this is very important. Change passwords often and do not repeat. You know, this used to be and is still a recommendation, but a number of websites and number of programs that you're going to has already implemented it. They will force you to change the password, and they will remember the last 4 passwords and make sure that you don't reuse them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you know, make sure that you are creative to come up with a set of passwords that you can change. If you think your password has been compromised, change it. This is very important. You know, if you get an email from a company where you have done business, an online e-commerce site, that sends you an email saying that, hey, just wanted to let you know that we were breached and your record was one of them. Guess what? Now the hackers have your username and password, and they can reuse it. So make sure the moment you get such a notice, you go log into the website and change your password. The other thing is use a passphrase and use an acronym of a phrase, right? My favorite football team is Philadelphia Eagles or Miami Dolphins or Baltimore Ravens, whatever you want to call it. So don't just name it Baltimore Ravens or Philadelphia Eagles, right? Come up with a longer passphrase or a way to remember things. This, I'll tell you why this is important in the next slide, but think about these things, you know, in terms of a longer password or a longer passphrase. And this is a cool, you know, a visual. Choose a good password. You know, password is like a toothbrush. Choose a good one, the one that fits you, suits you. You know, like a toothbrush, you know, medium, soft, and hard, right? So it depends upon what you can remember. Don't share it with anyone, right? Don't share your password with anyone, and change it occasionally, right? So every so often, 30, 60, 90 days, depending upon what your dentist says. But here, you know, 90 to 120 days, change your password. I think this has become, sort of a standard of how passwords are to be treated. The next slide is the one that is very interesting, intriguing, and that you need to know. If you have a 7-character password, the hackers can crack it in 0.29 millisecond. Yeah, millisecond, not a second, millisecond. An 8-character password can be cracked between 1 through 5 hours, right? So what does this mean? This actually means that if you have a password, what the hackers are doing is if they are able to get to your system and they guess your user ID, right? So they will go to Cecilia's Facebook page. They will go to Cecilia's website. They'll go to Cecilia's Instagram page. They will try to capture the name of your pet, of your relatives, of a place that you visited, or things like that, and add it to a dictionary, which is widely available on the internet. And using that, they'll try to crack your password. There is a very high degree of probability that your passwords follow a certain pattern, and that's what they're going to try to exploit. So 7-character, 8-character, 9 characters, right? A 9-character password in about a day to 5 days. Now, if take a look at the 12-character password, right? 2 centuries.
Wow.
And that's why we recommend longer passwords. Now, longer passwords are hard to remember, but you can definitely remember your favorite team. So don't just use the name of your favorite team, but use something like I love Miami Dolphins or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it very difficult for the hackers to guess what your password is or crack your password.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I'm still kind of reeling over 0.29 milliseconds. That is not long at all. That's not even what it takes to take I mean, that's shorter than to take a breath, I think. Like, when you breathe in, it's probably.
It is the computational power that we have now, right? Think about 25 years ago, we were still talking about floppy disks and floppy drives and 4.5-inch floppies. That was like probably what, 16 meg, 32 meg, 64 meg. We now have on our iPhone 1 gigabyte, 16 gigabyte, 32 gigabyte, 64 gigabyte. So we have so much computational power that it's becoming very easy to crack such things. And so, I urge everybody to make sure from a password perspective, maybe I'll ask you, Cecilia, over here.
Sure.
Is you're internet savvy, you're banking on the internet, I'm assuming. You're on LinkedIn, you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram, you're running campaigns, you are running this webinar. How do you manage your passwords?
Well, I have run into the issue of being told you've used that password before, don't use it again, when I have forgotten my password, because I do forget my passwords and I will just say, let me reset it. I use different passwords for every account. I do not use the same password on more than one account. I mix them up. I might shuffle them around and move passwords from account to account, so you don't know which password I'm using. And I always have a 10 to 12 character password. That's a mix of letters, numbers, and special characters.
How do you remember them?
Sometimes I don't. So if I don't, I'm resetting. I just try to, I do have a good memory. I'm blessed with that. So I do just try to remember it. I don't want to share all my secrets since this is online, because I don't want some hacker in Russia or China to like break into my life. But I do have a special notebook that I hide, that I will write clues to my password. I don't write the password. I write a clue. So it's very similar to your advice of use a phrase and turn that phrase into an acronym with letters and numbers. I write a clue. I don't write the actual password, or I might write down a password because I know what account it goes to, but I don't say what the account is. So if I suddenly, the infamous hit by a bus scenario, and somebody finds my little notebook, it's not going to mean anything to them, because sometimes I don't remember. It's kind of like that character on the old TV series MASH, Colonel Flagg from the CIA. I keep myself in a constant state of confusion because that way I can't get hacked. But seriously, I do try to practice these things. I sometimes consider coming up with some just like outrageously long thing some word that is meaningful to me, but not to somebody else. And I think that's the secret. Another secret to having a strong password is pick an instance in your own life, such as a character in a book that you like, or some place you've been that's not really common knowledge, something about you that's not common knowledge, and use that as your password reference, even if it's just a clue to your password, because everybody can't know everything about you. And if you're somebody like me who shares on Facebook, but not to the extent that some people do, like you will never, I shouldn't say never, you will rarely know what I've eaten by looking at Facebook, for example. And I'm just not on it that much anymore other than to promote my business. But I don't put things on there like my pets' names necessarily. I do occasionally. But you don't know, I might be using a dead pet if I'm using a pet, or I might be using a name I'm saving for a pet in the future. You don't know that. I tend not to use the pet names anyway, because it is pretty obvious. Or like my birthday or my husband's birthday or anything like that. I don't do those sorts of things. Or wedding anniversaries are not passcodes for anything. It's usually some word I make up that I know I can remember. And again, if I can't remember it, I just reset it. So I'm probably going to be in the 2nd-century category going forward.
Which is great, which is actually good. One question, this notebook of yours, is this online or is this actually a hard notebook?
It's a hard copy.
That's excellent, because I've seen a number of people maintaining a notebook, but it's very neatly and nicely kept on the computer desktop, named passwords, which makes it very easy. So I highly discourage people, if you can't remember, please write it down in a notebook and keep it securely, because the hackers 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 miles away cannot come into your house or on your office table and grab that notebook. But they can definitely get on your desktop and grab that file, text file or Excel or the Word document, which is neatly named passwords, and grab your whole life history. So please don't do that.
It's so funny because it's like an engraved invitation to hackers. You know, dear Russian hackers, please come onto my computer and steal my life. No, never save your passwords in that kind of a document. I'm with Sanjay on that. My father gave me some great advice when I was growing up. If you want to keep a secret, don't tell anybody. So don't put it on your computer because you're telling everybody what your passwords are. And my notebook is in a place where it can't be seen or gotten to via technology. It's an actual hard copy notebook that I got at the International Spy Museum, of all places. So, you know, and the cover says deny everything. So I deny it all. There are no passwords in this notebook, hackers. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what I do. But also, again, it's a lot of it is clues. It's not the actual password in a lot of cases. Write yourself a clue to remind yourself. Don't actually write down, because somebody could break in your house at some point when lockdowns are over after the pandemic and steal your notebook. You never know what people are going to take, or you might lose your notebook if you carry it around with you. I try to leave it at home all the time, hidden away somewhere, so that I can just look it up. But yes, it is not a good idea to have a password. I just can't believe people would do that. My husband talks about getting one of those password flash drives that you can get. But no, I'm not into that. But he just gets annoyed having to remember. He also has many, many passwords to remember, and he gets annoyed trying to remember them all. So you know, he's never done it, but he talks about it sometimes. I'm like, I don't think it's a good idea, because anything portable that's technology can be cracked.
Can be cracked, can get lost. You're going to take it somewhere with you, lose it, and that, you know, all of those things create a lot of problems.
Yes. And I do think that I do spend a lot of time online. I bank online. I do all kinds of things online, like a lot of people. Monitor other accounts. I'm always doing social media. I'm doing YouTube, of course, which is another form of social media. So I'm always very aware of online security. And especially we've talked, when we have a few minutes left, we've talked briefly in past episodes about phishing. I'm very cautious about phishing. I'm a very skeptical person by nature. So if I get an unusual email, I analyze it. Well, who is this really from? What is this email address? If it tells me it's coming from the Royal Bank of Scotland, but it says bob@joyofsex.com, then I know it's probably not really from the Royal Bank of Scotland.
You are funny. You're funny, Cecilia. Thank you so much again for, I know this was supposed to be my interview, but passwords and phishing, I think you're doing all the right things to protect yourself. And I would highly recommend the listeners to also do the same, pay attention to the password and pay attention to emails and make sure that you're not doing anything that'll get you into trouble.
Exactly.
Thanks, Cecilia, so much.
Yes, thank you, Sanjay. Thanks for all the great advice. Thanks for joining us again. And to everyone out there, thanks for joining us. And we'll be back next week with another episode. If you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips Nonprofit Consulting and Association Management Services, join us on the web, roguetulips.com. If you'd like to learn more about Sanjay's company, 24/7 Security, his information's right there on the screen. And if you'd like to learn more about the 501c League, which is a virtual membership organization for everyone in the nonprofit community and the people who love them, check out the league at the 501cleague.net. The 501c League is a leader in ethics training for the nonprofit profession and in CAE development for CAE candidates. So again, 501cleague.net, roguetulips.com, 24/7security.com, and we've got you covered online. So until next time, we're going to go rogue, and we'll see you next week.